looking at it.
Okay. It's going to take me a second.
But I'll get it going. Hello,
Okay.
everyone. I'm going to call to order the meeting for the Community Safety and Social Justice Committee. It is 6:34 and we're getting the meeting started. Per Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extended through June 30th, 2027, the ability of public bodies to meet in fully remote or hybrid manner. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone, and no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. So I'm going to start by reviewing the agenda for today's meeting. First will be call to order, which will be any announcements. And right now we're doing the agenda review. Then we will do minutes, member reports, public comment, Crescent DEI updates, Rob updates, YEC, Youth Empowerment Center updates, retreat planning, meeting with the town council. Then we'll have another public comment period, and then any items that was not anticipated prior to this meeting. So let's start with any announcements? Does anyone have any announcements?
No.
Not right now. Okay. I do know that there's going to be several events, and I don't have everything in front of me there, but there's going to be several events for Pride Month, as well as the Juneteenth events. So please check the Amherst website for all the different, times, because I know there's a whole slew, for Juneteenth throughout the day, and then for Pride events. And I know Amherst is having their first kind of Pride event this year. So, hopefully folks will tune into that. Okay, since there aren't any announcements, let's go into the minutes. I know that we had some minutes to review. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes?
I have a few.
Okay, go
Yep.
ahead.
And one clarification. Just under number 1 is chapter 20 acts of instead of OD, it's OF. Either some of them are really minor, but there was a clarification which had to do with is the grant that was talked about in the minute through DMH or through DPH, or were there two different things? Your current grant that is not going to be funded is DPH, but the grant that you're going to apply for is DMH?
The grant that we are using is the DPH, and that ends, the fiscal year ends is June 30th.
Correct. But in the minutes, it talked about applying for a grant. So it was a little confusing. It was under CRES updates. So that one was a little confusing because it actually mentioned DMH. It's under the question and answer piece. So it may be important just to clarify that particular answer. That's all.
So can we, maybe what we could do is just have that kind of clarified, and then we can vote on it next meeting? Are you all good with that? Maybe a thumbs up?
Can I just ask where that was again? Because I'm just writing a note.
Yes, under the questions and answer. Let me see if I. Just so you know, that the first minutes that were sent out, they were missing a few pages, but Angel did send it out again, and it was there. So it says, did you apply for the grant? The grant was a rolling grant, and the issue is that it's not being funded. And then in the second sentence, it talks about Department of Mental Health. And so that's the clarification.
Okay, so it's a Department of Public Health.
Right, that's what I thought.
And it wasn't a rolling grant, it was a yearly grant it was a line item in the budget. So it is no longer, it is not in for the fiscal year 26 budget. So they took it out. Senator Comerford did try to get it in the budget, tried very hard.
Well, I think part of the issue is that it's CDC funded, and my understanding is that there are actually offices at DPH that have closed because there's no CDC funding. So then it trickles down to the communities. So it's a very sad situation.
Any other questions about the minutes before we move forward? And then we can just vote on it the next time when for last month's minutes, and then hopefully we'll have this month minutes too to kind of look at.
Sorry, I have one more clarification. Sorry.
Sure.
I just think it's important since, others might read the minutes. Under the last public comment, the conversation was about the African Heritage Reparation Assembly, but I believe the committee that was being discussed, it comes out of that assembly, and it's actually going to be the Amherst Reparation Committee. Because it was discussed in terms of membership. And my understanding is that town council was recommending that they have representation from all kinds of departments, including us. So I think it just means listening to the recording. I just want to make sure that it's accurate. And that's all I have, really.
Okay. For our next, so now we'll do member reports. Does anyone have any reports they want to share? So for me, I'll report on a few things. And I know that my name still says like Philippa Avila. I don't even know why it always says that. But
I'm about ready to change that.
yeah, I'm on my phone, so I can't change it for whatever reason. So but I will kind of report that, there was ICE raids that happened in our community, past few weeks. And as we know, they're happening all over the country. Our most vulnerable and marginalized in our community are being impacted. People are very afraid, not knowing where to go. And, this is another reason, and I know we're going to be talking about it more specific around CREST, but this is a more of a reason as to why, for myself, I can speak for myself, I've been mobilizing to make sure that those positions for CREST do not get frozen, and that even the position implementation manager position gets put in place, through other funding ways. But CREST needs to be fully funded, because CREST is the place, is the safe haven for people to be able to go to and ask questions and be able to get the resources and help that they need. So for me, in terms of reporting on what I've been doing, is just this month has been just crazy in terms of trying to mobilize people through social media, contacting town councilors, contacting my district councilors, sending multiple emails to my networks to let them know the importance of CREST. I mean, this is just, unbelievable that we're at this stage where, there's even an inkling of an idea that with CREST not being fully funded, that there would even be, a world where the town manager, the town manager would recommend 2 positions to be frozen in CREST. I'm just like, it's just unfathomable to me. So for me, it's just been a crush and a rush of frantic energy to try to make sure that the powers that be, especially the town councils, because I heard that they're going to be voting on it on June 16th at 6:30, that everyone motivate and get out and meet with their district town councilors and make sure that they understand and that our voices are heard, that this is unacceptable, that this should not be happening. So I know we'll be talking about it more, but I know that that was a huge part of my month was responding to people being picked up by ICE and trying to assist in those situations and trying to provide resources and information to people, so that they know their rights and they know their options and what they can do in a very scary situation where families are being obliterated, are being separated. People are just terrified right now. And then amongst this is then this whole thing of CRES being then diminished. I mean, it just boggles my mind. It's just unacceptable. So that's my memo reports. I don't know if anyone else has anything else before we continue moving forward on the agenda.
On the same lines, fortunately or unfortunately, there are going to be lots and lots of protests on Saturday, and the unfortunate is that we're having our retreat at the same time. But we had scheduled this way beforehand, and we had rescheduled this. But I, literally been looking for any event past 1 o'clock to attend. The reason I raise it is because the people, even in Amherst, who I've spoken to, are somewhat concerned about safety. And I've heard people say, well, the rules have changed. We used to know what the rules were, which is freedom, of assembly, freedom of speech. And so just being aware of that, that is also, people are going to protest regardless, because it's so critical, so important. But at the same time, people are nervous about, their rights being just ignored. Peaceful assembly, and we're seeing that already across the nation, what happens with peaceful assemblies and goading them to make it less peaceful and then sending in the forces. So I just wanted to raise that.
Yeah, and thank you, Erica, for raising that, because like you said, people do have a right to assemble. They do have a right to speak out against what is happening against this is happening in people's neighborhoods. These are their neighbors, their friends, their family that are just being disappeared, that are just being taken. And people do have a right to do that. But what I've been reading, right, in terms of these protests is that they are peaceful, right? It's not to go there and start any trouble or start any problems. Is to make sure that what you're going to be doing there, that it is peaceful and it's focused, right? And that you do have a right to do that. So we want to make sure that people understand that, they can still show up, they can still be there, but it is to be there peacefully, so as to, make sure that there's no problems, because we know that there's a lot of fake news out there, a lot of fake news saying that these assemblies are violent, that this which is not happening and is not true. So just make sure, like I said, that you show up for the right reasons and you are focused in terms of what the message that you're bringing forward when you show up to these protests. Okay, so Camille, I'm not gonna have, I don't have the ability to look at, who are the participants and to bring them in. So I don't know, can you do this part just to kind of bring in people, because right now we're going to start the public comment, and if there's any one in the public that wants to speak, please raise your hand and we'll bring you in, and you can make your point. We on the committee will not respond to your statement, but we will allow you the time to just say whatever it is you want to say for the time that you're brought into our meeting. Okay. Someone in, Miss Pat?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time. Can people hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, so I just have a quick announcement. Black Business Association of Amherst area, in collaboration with St. Sankofa Gumbo. We're planning a Juneteenth event. For the first time, we're doing it indoors at St. Bridget's Hall. So it is free to the public. There'll be free food, lots of dancing, and we're encouraging people to show up. There will be vendor marketplace that day to support local businesses, and also our great local authors will be there for book signing, kids activities, lots of food to eat. Please come. And in this time of, what is happening nationwide, at least let's dedicate that day to have some joy in our community. And the next thing I wanted to say is just to thank you all for your time. And, I echo what Deborah had said regarding CRES. I don't want to repeat that, but it saddens me so much that the work of CSWG regarding CRES has been dismantled, gradually. And I'm not happy about it. I did forward, some stuff to people in my network to advocate. Just hoping for the best on Monday, but encouraging people to show up. Even if they don't want to speak, but at least to, tune in to show support for CRES. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Pat.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the public that wants to speak? Please raise your hand. Camille, do we see anyone else? Oh, here we go.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I don't want to disrupt, but I just wanted to confirm what business Pat is speaking about. I'm a local reporter intern for the Amherst Indie, and I'm covering this event. So I just didn't get the name of the business she's from and what day and where the event will be held.
So this is a Juneteenth event. It's a Black Businesses of Amherst Area Association, and they're going to be having a Juneteenth event. I mean, the place, I think I have it written down, actually. Let me just look it up for you, and then I'll be able to tell you in just a second, because I just wrote it down.
St.
And
Bridget's.
calendar, because
Bridges.
yeah, so it's St. Bridget's. It's on 43 North Prospect Street in Amherst. And it's from 5 to 9 p.m. that it's happening.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that wants to make a public comment? Camille, do we see anyone else or no?
No more hands.
Okay. All right. So seeing that we don't see any other hands, we'll keep moving forward in terms of our agenda. But there will be another public comment at the end of the meeting. So if you have something else to say, you can say it at that point. But now we'll start with our first report out from CRES.
Muted.
I'm going to let Pamela go first because she has to leave.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, so Pamela from DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, if you can do your report out, please.
Right, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm having technical issues and I'm in the office. So there have been 3 major events that the department has completed in the last month. We started the month with a pride flag raising on June 2nd. We just this past Sunday with the Human Rights Commission held the Youth Hero Award, and there were 13 awardees, and that was done in partnership with the Race Amity Day. And just about an hour ago, we completed our work with Dr. Barbara Love on the liberatory visioning. She met with some of the facilitators to review her final report. That report will go to the town manager and ultimately to the town council, and it will be made public. And so that just all happened within the last week. Today, we concluded our department level trainings by holding a training at the Amherst Police Department with police supervisors and new recruits. We'll complete the rest of the police department in the new fiscal year, so in July or August. We have a number of events that are planned in the weeks ahead. I think Deborah already mentioned the inaugural Pride Parade, which will be held on June 22nd from noon until 3 p.m. Starts at the Amherst Regional High School and ends at the Town Common. On July 5th, the DEI department in collaboration with South Church will be reading What to the Slave is the 4th of July. There'll be, I think, some lecture or led by Dr. Shabazz, and then an opportunity for the community to engage in some dialogue with facilitators from South Church and from the DEI facilitator group. On July 16th, the Commission for Persons with Disability will be celebrating Disability Pride Month by joining the Northampton Commission and the East Hampton Commission with a tri-town film festival. Our film will be held on July 16th. The other communities are having theirs, I believe, on July 5th and July 29th. In addition, we're working on an annual report that we'll provide to the town manager. And Melina and I are completing our work with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission around storytelling and narratives of BIPOC communities. We have one more session, which will be next Tuesday. And the 4 sessions have been geared to teach us how to better tell those narratives and to make sure that they're done in an equitable way and they're not exploitive of the individuals whose stories we're trying to tell. And then finally, you've already mentioned the BBAA Juneteenth event. The Ancestral Bridges event is this Saturday. It starts at 10:30. And it's 29A Cottage Street. And then on Sunday, it continues with a celebration at Hope Church. So that's what I have. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Pamela? Pamela, I have a question for you. The report that Barbara Love is going to do, I know you said it's going to be open. It's going to be open to the public. Any chance we on CSSJC can see it beforehand?
I will talk to Dr. Love. Generally, the town manager wants to review things before they're, so I have to talk to Dr. Love and to the town manager. It was a draft was shared with the facilitators today who have been working on it, but I'd have to ask the town manager about sharing it publicly before he sees it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you can talk to him, you know, and see if that can be shared with us, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
And how are things going in terms of, I know you all are doing youth programming since, you know, we don't have any representatives to talk to us about the Youth Empowerment Center, even though I've talked to the town manager a gazillion times to assign someone to this group. But how are the youth programming going?
So we've concluded our youth programming for the year. We did the 5 weeks or 6-week programming ending in the Global Village, so the entrepreneurship series, and then attempted to have 2 workshops with the community, I'm going to mispronounce their name, but the Community Justice Foundation from Boston. One was canceled because there was no attendance. And the second one, we had maybe about 7 or 8 folks attend that session. there aren't any more sessions planned by DEI for the summer, but we are aware that the CREST, and I'm sure Camille will talk more about this, that the CREST department has already begun what they're calling CREST Connections and will be doing youth programming. And the rec department is also doing a series on youth empowerment. So we're being mindful of those because one of the questions that was asked of the DEI department, in fact, it was really the only question asked during our meeting with the finance committee during our budget, was whether we were making sure that we were not doing redundant programming that was done by other departments. So we're doing our bit and they're doing their bit, and we're trying to work collaboratively, but not to have multiple programs that the town council might view as repetitive or redundant.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, it's just like, again, going back to CSWG recommendations, right, was to establish a youth empowerment center that focused on empowering youth and more specifically BIPOC youth, right? So we know that you all don't work on establishing empowerment center, and so that what we've been told, as you know, right, and you've told us this, and so has Philip told us this, that you all are just focusing on the programming portion of it, right? So for me, and I'll speak for myself, it's just like, I want this focused on BIPOC youth, right? And we want BIPOC youth and other youth to have these types of programming, but a specific emphasis on BIPOC youth, because I'm not sure what rec is doing. I'm not sure what other, groups are doing, but I want to know that the town is providing this, because we were supposed to, right, 5 years or 4 years down the road, be providing youth empowerment center, which has not happened. So this programming needs to be focused and needs to really, make sure that we're grabbing the young people, especially during this time, right? There's a lot of young people that are going through very difficult time, right? Given what's happening in our neighborhoods. It's not just nationally, it's happening locally, right? In terms of these raids and all of these things that are happening, and this shutdown on contracts and budget and defunding and so on and so forth. So a lot of families are being impacted and young people are being impacted. And the ones that we know that are being impacted the most are those that are marginalized, vulnerable, and BIPOC youth. So our programming needs to be geared towards that. One of the things that I think, would be beneficial for you all is really to tap the people that have been doing this work for a very long time. And I think I did mention this to Philip, but I'll mention it kind of publicly. Like, one of the people that we have that's a gem in our community is like Evelyn Aquino, right? She's a consultant. She has been doing youth development, youth leadership work in Amherst and the surrounding areas for years. And she knows how to attract youth. She knows how to work with youth. She knows how to bring them in, right? And as we say, empower them to make sure that they're feel heard and that they're able. She's done restorative justice. She's done a lot of work in this area. So I think, the town needs to partner up with folks like Evelyn to make sure that you all are as effective as possible. Because again, building that relationship, especially during this time, young people are not going to be trusting, right, of the town and things like that. So it's, how do you build those relationships? And a lot of times you need to have people that have already been working with that population for a very long time to be able to kind of then bring them in. So this is my suggestion. I think it would be a lot more successful if you all tap into tried and true people that already do that work, right? So Evelyn, there's Mary Custer, there's my brother Tim Blessed, who has connection to the ABC boys and is the director there. I mean, you all need to bring the trusted adults in, and they bring in the young people, as opposed to just going directly to young people who a lot of times, are not going to really kind of, have that automatic relationship with town folks. So.
Well, thank you for the suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments for Pamela? Okay, well, thank you, Pamela. I know you have to go, so I'm gonna.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Bye.
So Camille, I'll turn it over to you for a CREST report.
Okay, I'm gonna let you know that you were talking about youth program through the DPH grant, the Equitable Approaches to Public Safety. We are winding down with the year, and our Crest Connections, we have been working with youth doing reading and activity. And for May, it was they read the book The Wild Robot, and then they built their own robots. And so it was STEM work. Also, this is a team building exercise. So, and it was BIPOC led and encouraging the BIPOC communities. So we are doing what the grant asked us to do. And then Friday, the Crest Connections team worked with younger kids, and they did the book My Mouth is a Volcano. And for that one, they created jars with that they put their own sayings to talk about like positivity in their life. And they were able to work with the facilitators, with the Crest team, to be able to be encouraged. And they were given a healthier snack, and also were able to take home a book. So the whole program was created by Vanessa Phillips, one of the responders. And the whole idea was to work with the youth and give them their own books, because many people read their books on their phones. Kids don't go to libraries as much as they used to. And this isn't to encourage reading, to encourage community, and to just get people together and talking. So that's one. And also I'm going to share my screen. Share. Okay, so we are going to be doing a community needs assessment. This is also part of the grant. And what this is through the Tory research, we are going to be gathering people together at 2 different locations, possibly 3. And I'm asking for your assistance to get people to sign up. Registration is encouraged but not required. But I would really like to get a good cross-section of the people in the community. And what this is to talk about, what it is to support the community. So these are small group sessions using deliberate engagement. And it's about real talk, real change. You'll hear a bold statement, and then we'll talk about it, explain why it matters, and that we're listening, and what works, what doesn't work, and what needs to change. So this will be hosted by Tory Research in partnership with Crest. And email here I've got is for Bindo Kalisin at Tory Research. And also people can sign up through Crest. We also have a QR code. And dinner will be provided for the 5 to 8 p.m. sessions. And we're still hashing out exactly where we're going to have these. And the idea behind them is to have them in places where people congregate. So we're trying not to use the Bang Center and trying to be out in the community. So if anybody has any ideas of a good place, we have the Emmanuel Lutheran Church upstairs is a room that we're thinking about, and then we're trying to get some other ones. But I really want to get it out to the public that to come to these sessions and have your voice heard. So the Crest responders are all going to be trained in deliberate engagement. This is an extensive program that Bindu Khalisian, Dr. Bindu Khalisian started. And this is to get the community together and find out exactly what our needs are. And this is from a BIPOC researcher. So I think that this is important. So if everybody can, on the committee can reach out to people. Again, I have the QR code here. It'll also be on the Crest website. People can email cress@amherstma.gov, and we can get the information out to them.
Camille, if you can also send it to our group, just, after the meeting or tomorrow, whatever, and then
Yes.
that works.
It literally, we just finished the flyer today.
Okay.
Because we're still working on, again, exactly where we're going to meet, but we have the details of what sessions.
Great.
Erica?
So I'm sure they'll talk about this, but what will the next steps be once the community needs assessment has been put together? And the reason I ask this is we've had community focus groups and needs assessments before, and we've presented them to the town council, and to the community, in terms of community voices being heard. But sometimes it seems that the town and town council go very slowly around recommendations, or they just don't seem to move. So, I mean, I definitely am going to be there, definitely going to share this with individuals, but it's, I think it's just so important to know how this is being utilized.
So what's going to happen is this part of the EAPS grant, so the DPH grant. So part of this is that everyone have an evaluation of their programs and of the community. So the whole thing behind this is to find out and to hear from actual people what it is that they're looking for. Now that, we've had some times from the original CSWG and the LEAP report, and to find out what's working and what's not working. So with everything, the only thing that is guaranteed is there's going to be change. So it's like, I like to tell people that we are the mortar to like the brick. We are, not only are we just bricks too, but we are the mortar that brings all this together and is holding space for people.
Any other questions on this point? Sorry, Camille, were you saying something?
That's okay. And then the next thing I wanted to say is that myself and one of the responders, Timothy DeRochers, attended last week the AMSA alternative acronyms. So it was the alternative response. It was a convention that brought together 200 plus people from different alternative response from New Jersey, other ones in Massachusetts. They brought some of the people from Cahoots and also from Durham Heart. So, and they all spoke and we all got together and talked about what's working, what's not working, and where we're going. Had a wonderful panel with John. Oh my gosh, I didn't write this down. He was actually one of the original paramedics from Hill. That's what I get for not writing things down. From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a poorer area. And they actually basically wrote the book on what paramedics were doing, and how things are doing. Sorry, my internet is unstable. Anyhow, so having gone to that conference, one of the things that we gained from it was that we found out that not only are we doing a lot more with a lot less, that we are doing the work. So I'm really proud of it. I had some reporters from the other side that had heard about CRESS. We also have some people from New York that are contacting us, trying to start their own program and finding out what works. And we were told it's that our model that we're working with, is a great combination of the different models of what is public safety and public health. And that being that we are standalone, we have more influence in the community, that we are getting out there and we're doing the work.
Great.
I'm going to stop sharing. And again, anybody that needs to reach out and wants to find out more information can send an email to cress@amherstma.gov. Also, I want to give another plug for the newsletter, which is on the town website. It is also at various places in town, businesses. We also had some at bus stops. We also have some in the building. And if you want to get a digital version, again, you can email cress@amherstma.gov and we can send you the digital version.
Erica has a question.
Two questions. One around the newsletter. Is it sent to like everyone who's on a committee in the town? Because they seem to be influencers, and it's a good newsletter. I love the data because I think that's really important. And if not to all the committee members, then at least to the town council members. I think that would be very important. And then I'm sure it's probably at the senior center.
Yes, it
Okay.
is at the senior center. Right now, I'm not sure. I know there is a listing of who we are sending it to. It's people who signed up. So I'm not sure, but I think that is a good idea to send it to the town council.
Yeah, keep them updated. And I had a second question, but I totally forgot what it was. So I'm sorry. I know what it was. Sorry, I do know what it was. I think the last meeting we had, you were about to go to the finance committee, and I heard Pamela talk about some of the questions the DEI department was asked. Anything that they asked in specific with regard to your presentation? Because I know that you were stressing how critical CRESS is, and that it's a public safety initiative. It's an alternative initiative, but it's hands in hands under the public safety umbrella, just as important as police and fire and ambulance. So just curious.
I will say that during the meeting, the first part of the meeting with the APD, there was a lot of talk about CRESS and a question of folding CRESS or having CRESS under APD or in the building. And also the same was asked of fire. And I iterated that, CRESS needs to remain standalone and that the whole premise behind alternatives to policing is to take it anywhere out of police jurisdiction unless they are needed. And the other thing that I brought up is that that when people do co-response, it is a police call. So, and this is something that I know from my firefighter days, is that on a fire scene, the fire department is in charge. On a police scene, the police are in charge. If a co-response goes, the police are in charge. So if we go to a call and the police are already there, the police are in charge till they clear it and hand it over to us. If we go on our own, it is our scene unless they come. So, and that's the difference. And also there's the difference about how they go about it. We go about it as there is a problem and we are there as we're there to listen. We're there to find out what is going on. We are not there to make any judgments. We are not there. And I'm not saying that anybody necessarily makes judgments, but they have their protocols and how they do things. And we have ours. Ours is to go in first, find out what the issue is and see what kind of help, what kind of anything else that we can build that bridge with.
So thank you, Camila. I do have some questions in regards to that meeting because I actually was able to attend a lot of that meeting, not the whole thing, but at least the first hour of it. And I was very concerned about the meeting and the questions that the town councilors, finance committee were making, because like Camille said, a lot of them were focusing on like co-response or trying to put CREST under the APD, which again, with the CSWG recommendations, which we took a long time, a year, on a weekly basis, and all the research we did on all the different programs out there, that we said that no, the co-response model does not work, that CREST needs to be independent. And as Camille stated, right, it's about making sure that, okay, who is the appropriate department to be called to the scene first, and then if there is a need, right, you bring in the other department, and it shouldn't be a co-response. And so I was really concerned that, and that's where my initial statement when during member reports that I was making is coming from, really from those questions and from other kind of feedback that I've been receiving in the community. That's where the town councilors are going, and that's why they're freezing. They want to freeze these two positions, because ultimately that's where they want to go. They want to go with folding CREST under the APD or making it a co-response type of a program, which would be unacceptable for community members, right? Community members and CSWG, we made recommendations for alternative to policing, a department that's going to be independent, to be able to be responsive, that is focused on de-escalation, mediation, that's actively and forwardly anti-racist and puts it out there in the mission statement and acts on it, right? And is out there to really provide the resources and make sure that people understand that they're there to assist, and then do that warm handoff to whatever other long-term resource place that they need to go. So I was really concerned to kind of hear some of those things. But the other two things, Camille, that I want you to talk about is the police kept bringing in a lot of making a big deal out of the fact that I guess they have a counselor or something. And I want you to kind of like chime in more about that I guess goes on calls with them and things like that. And so I've been hearing a lot of like rumors and feedback. Well, since they already have, a clinician or something, I guess they have a clinician that goes with them on certain calls, then what's the need for CREST and things like that? So that's really disturbing to me, because just because they have a clinician that goes on some of the calls does not mean that there isn't a need for CREST. CREST is there to be an alternative to policing. It's not for the police to be called on the scene. And then, yes, sometimes, right, they can get called on the scene and then bring in CREST. But most often it's to make that determination as to who is going to be called to the scene and who might need, depending on the situation, what department is needed. So I want you to talk about that. And then I have one more question that I want to ask you. But yeah, I remember hearing a lot about that, almost kind of like, well, since we have that, what's the need for CREST? If you could kind of talk a little bit about that.
So exactly what you said there about they do have a clinician. That is a co-response. And as I said before, when you have a co-response, the police own the scene. So the clinician is there with the officer. So the officer would clear the scene first. Okay, now if that is a situation where somebody is already triggered or escalating, they're going to escalate more. Okay, and then the clinician is there after to calm things down or whatever, and then the clinician can. The other thing that the clinician and the police can do is section someone. And CREST, as we're consent based, will never section someone. So if something is that someone needs a hospital or a higher level of care, then that is where we're going to call for the co-response, the clinician and the fire department. Okay, so this is why I say we all have our lanes where, the edges are a little blurred and we work together. But the difference is that when we go to a scene, we are there to de-escalate, to mediate, etc. And also the other thing that's been brought up time and time again is that as unarmed responders, people's response to us is completely different than they are to an armed officer.
Exactly.
So that's the important thing to note, is that when CREST goes to a scene, we are there as, unarmed responders. We are there to provide services. We are there to be a bridge. de-escalation, mediation. We are there to listen and to just empathize and be there with the person depending what their needs are. The co-response is more, like I said, it is a police officer that goes first, clears the scene, and then the clinician can take over.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making that clear, because yeah, I was totally like that is not the same thing, and that would not be the model, right? That would not be the model that we would want. And I'm glad that you're explaining this, because I think a lot of community members might not understand that clearly, because the police kept on making that argument as if that would be a good solution, and I don't agree with that at all.
Well, and I will say this, there is a place for the co-response there.
Yeah.
But it is different than CRESS.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. And that's what, it's not that we're doing the same thing. It's that it's different needs. So different needs require a different type of call and different type of action. If somebody has a broken leg, you're not going to call the police to come pick them up.
Yeah, exactly. Allegra, before you go, I just want to ask one more question, because since I was on that meeting, the other thing that really concerned me was the dispatch director was there, or manager, or whomever.
Supervisor
was there. And I heard him say that they have not dispatched, and they do not dispatch to CRESS. So again, it is just such a clear sabotage that CRESS has had all this time, right? That our recommendation, CSWG recommendations, was that CRESS is an alternative to policing, independent department, and that you all are supposed to get dispatch calls from the police. Then the supervisor went on to say that the reason why they haven't done it is because there's no protocols. The protocols haven't been created. One, I was really muddled, right? One, it seemed as if he was saying that you, Camille, did not put together the protocols, and therefore they weren't able to dispatch. It seemed like he was saying that, but then it also seemed like he was saying, well, yeah, there are protocols. So that's why I was like confused. He was like, there are protocols, but the thing is that they haven't been approved by town legal, the liability, and so on and so forth. And basically said that because those protocols have not been approved by town legal, then they have not dispatched any calls to CRESS. But bottom line, and I even heard, right, some of the town councilors, one of them even being Mandy Joe, which, she's a big one that I really say is very resistant to CRESS, was kind of like, wow, I didn't even know that. I did not know that CRESS isn't getting calls dispatched to them, right? So how can you freeze positions in CRESS when they have not even been fully utilized? Because you all do not get calls dispatched to you. And now you're getting basically penalized for not being fully utilized. So for me, hearing the supervisor say that, whichever way it was, but hearing the supervisor tell me that no calls have been dispatched, and even the town council is being shocked, right, that no calls have been dispatched to CRESS, even though we've been talking about this for years. The recommendations were very clear. And now you all are getting positions frozen, and you all are getting, limited, like shrunk in size when you all have not been. So for me, and I'll say it, because I don't have a problem saying it, this is clear sabotage of CRESS in order to then eventually try to get rid of CRESS. And I'm putting it out there publicly, because that is what I believe the town is trying to do, and town government is trying to do, with all of these shenanigans and this back and forth in terms of dispatch and undispatch. But I'll go back to my original question, Camille, which is, like I said, it seemed like the supervisor was telling, a tale of two cities, two stories, and I'm not sure which one is true. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So back May of last year, with the GPL's assistance, we had the GPL here. We created SOPs for dispatch, okay, and sent them over. And then it was looked at and needed more clarification, and they needed to be refined. So then it was taken, and the implementation manager, Kat, was working with APD to create the SOPs. So the macro level are completed, but then they needed to be done to more like day-to-day stuff. And at that time, as you know, the grant is over in 2 weeks, and she is on vacation now, so for the rest of the time. And so that is as far as we've gotten. We are still working on that. Now it's going to take some time because now I can't do it all on my own. So it's working with Jason in dispatch, the dispatch supervisor, who has been very helpful. So it's still being done. It's just, it is not being done to the speed that I would like it. And the question of the legality of it is something that, you know, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say anything. And then there's a lot, and one of the things that came up, and this is also, we've talked about this with the LEAP report and everything else, is the legality of it. So something happens, who's responsible?
Yeah, but again, though, I mean, I just really feel that this is delay tactics because, like you said, you all have put together some protocols, and then it needs to be further dissected and more detail needs to be created. Goes back, then Kat is working with the APD, and then why weren't these things put in place already? My thing is delay, and now you all are being penalized for not having calls dispatched to you. You see what I'm saying? I'm kind of like, you need to work out. I'm an attorney, and I know that when you want something done, you get it done quickly, right? If the town wanted this to happen, for you all to have protocols in place, this would have been done yesterday, right? It's a deadline. You meet a deadline, you get it done. There's no there's no kind of like, with the laws, it's the laws, right? You research the laws, you see what you can do, and you see what you can't do. And with the laws, you find a solution around it. Okay. My thing is, I understand that what's going on, all of these excuses and these barriers and these walls that are being put up is just a delay tactic. It's a delay tactic that has worked, right? Because what's happening? Because of the delays with these protocols, so-called protocols, so on and so forth, dispatch did not move forward, and Crest did not get the calls dispatched. And now what is happening? Now you all are getting your positions frozen. You see what I'm saying? And the rumor out there is Crest is ineffective. Oh, they're not doing the work. Of course, they're not doing what they're supposed to fully do. You all are not doing what you're supposed to fully do because you haven't been given the wherewithal, right? You're not getting the calls. You're not being fully utilized. So how it's a catch-22. You can't expect you all to be fully utilized if you are not doing it. And I'm sorry, I'm going to put the blame where the blame needs to be put when it's the town that is putting those taxes. Because like I said, I know you're not an attorney, I'm an attorney. And I know that when you want things done, this would have been done years ago. All right. The town would have had this done if they actually wanted this to happen. This is resistance for resistance sake, for an outcome, which the outcome is to sabotage Crest and to get rid of Crest. And that is what I'm seeing. And it was very clear when I heard that meeting, the finance committee meeting.
So I will tell you, I was very frustrated with the committee meeting also, with the high emphasis on Crest and what we're doing and what we're not doing. And I will say this as someone who is a firm believer in the mission of Crest, that just because we are not getting the calls from dispatch, okay, when we talk about diversion, is that because of the fact that we're not getting the calls from dispatch, then we are getting the calls directly. People coming in, other town departments calling us, the library calling us. So while the numbers from dispatch are not there, our numbers from the public and businesses are there. So it may not be working at optimal level. It's still working. And I think the difference is that now people are actually starting to see this. And and that's one of the main reasons behind the newsletter. That's another reason why, doing the community needs assessment. That's why getting out at different events and showing up for people. And this is why we are doing all this work to be seen. Same thing with like the MMMP morning mentoring movement program, being there for students. The same thing with Crest Connections, being there for the students so that if they have these difficulties, rather than needing to call the police, they can call Crest. And we have had the school call Crest to come in to mediate students and meet them at the bus stop, after school, because there was believed there was going to be a fight, and to sit and talk to these youth. So while it's not working to the best and what it was envisioned, it's getting there. Okay. It is there a lot of the way. And the only thing that needs to be is the dispatch portion. And I think that's going to make a difference, but I don't think it's going to change a lot, because I think what we're already doing is being effective at diversion, being effective of being there. People starting to say, hey, that's Crest. Hey, I need to talk to someone. Getting emails. This is going on with me in my housing. I'm having a difficult time with my landlord. I can't call the police. What can I do? And giving them different avenues. So it is working. And again, I will agree again that, having dispatch will add to it, but I don't think that we're not doing the work.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So
yeah, and I don't want to take that away from you all. You all are still giving everything, right? You all are still doing the work, like you said, right? You're responding, you're doing everything. But all I'm saying is that portion though was a big part of the CSWG recommendations, because it was supposed to be, when the calls came in, what are the calls that are appropriate to go to Crest? And this was supposed to have happened years ago, right? Even before you
if you look on the town website, we do have like a call tree of calls that are appropriate for Crest and calls that are not.
Yeah.
And it's also on our pamphlets. It's also, we have the resource guide. I'm like, oh, it doesn't show up. So we have a lot of things that are in place that, when, as someone who's a doer, that if something is not happening quick enough, then I'm going to find a workaround. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, thank you, Camila. And one last comment, and then I'm going to turn it over to Allegra. The other part too that I saw during the meeting was that, the police again, saying that they have like 45 police. So that 45, you have up to 8, that responders that you could hire. Now they're going to freeze 2. That means you're only going to have 6. So the stark difference between that, and the police are only getting 1 position frozen. And then also the stark difference, like we even recommended that you get an assistant director. You don't even have an assistant director. So I also saw how, the chief had his assistant, or whatever he was, deputy. He has, I don't know if
he had his 2 captains.
yeah, his
Yes.
2 captains. And that was a stark difference of seeing you there by yourself, having to be under defend yourself, defend Crest by yourself, while he was there with 2 captains who are at the top of their game, who had all this data, who was there spewing. I mean, that is totally unequal. And that is not okay. It was very visually striking, the differences and how the departments are being treated. So I just wanted to make that comment because I was at that meeting and I saw that. And I wanted to share that with the public, because you need an assistant director and you need to be fully staffed in terms of at least have the 8 responders. It doesn't make any sense, anything less than that at this point. And then it should be beyond that, as we all know, right? But that'll be my last comment. Allegra?
Thank you.
Yes, too.
Hi, thank you for your leadership tonight, Deborah, and every day. Especially thank you for being able to attend those meetings. And I think Erica might have been able to attend part of it as well. I was not, but it sounds troubling and not surprising at all what's been going on. And I just wanted to clarify that was it being talked about that Cress and the police would co-respond together? Okay.
They were talking about a variety of different things, but it was kind of like, yeah, the possibility, because the finance committee was asking all these questions, right? Because they're trying to see about being efficient with the fund, right? And not being duplicative with the money, given that it's tight budget times. And so they were throwing out all these different models. But yeah, that was some of what they were discussing, co-response or just having Crest be under APD, different things like that.
Okay. No, those are, I don't think, good options. And I mean, in terms of the co-response clinician, I know that that's a big model that DMH pushes a lot. And I don't know if there's ever been the opportunity for Crest to work with the co-responding clinician, because I do think that they're.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Um,
So, the two clinicians that work there, one's day and one's later on, are really wonderful people. But again, the one thing the big thing about them is that they respond with the police, and it is the police's scene. APD owns that scene. So there's a huge difference in how things are done, protocols. And the other thing is that as I said, that CRESS is consent based. We will never section someone. They can section someone.
yeah, and like
So-
I'm not
Oh, you know this.
careful because I am the person who evaluates people to commit them or not, but I also am like, I don't think we should be doing this. So
Well, and that is part of the thing with CRESS is that we will never do that. We are there as best we can, and if we have to hand it off to someone who can do that, then that's what we shall do. But we will never do that. And also I wanted to say that we just got back Friday morning from the conference. Actually got stuck in New York because of the trains being down from the New Haven problem. So literally didn't get on a bus until 1 o'clock in the morning, got off in Hartford because that's the only bus that was there, and then came home. But for next month, I will have more information from the conference, because one of the things that I've done in the department and they've done before is anybody who goes to a conference comes back and presents to the rest of the team. And I will send some stuff over to the town manager, and I will also put it up for you all to see.
okay, and so because I guess part of my thought process, which is a little scattered right now, but I think I had told you a few months ago, I was planning to talk with a person who was doing research at Yale about alternative response programs, and kind of what she has been finding is that a lot of them across the country are facing similar backpedaling. There was like this big surge in 2020 after George Floyd. So I wasn't sure. I know at some points there had been some like co-training with some of, like, I think Durham was one of the ones that Earl had talked about previously. And I don't know if there's a network of support around kind of if other programs are going through similar stuff.
There is, and that was a big point of the conference from AMSA, was talking about how we best support each other, how we retain people, how we obtain funding, and etc. So there was a lot of really good networking and finding out what are other communities doing, and the fact that there are so many different models. The Durham model has like 3 tiers. They have a co-response, they have a response team alternative, and then they have an aftercare. So they have people that go back afterwards. So there's so many different levels. Then there's Newark, New Jersey, and their one was just incredible. The deputy mayor was there, and she was a force to be reckoned with. The way she dealt with things and bringing people together and training just the general public in different areas. And we've invited the public to our trainings for some of our things like CPR, hands-on CPR. We've invited them for de-escalation training, so mediation. So it's like it's getting it out there. And for us, some of the things is like with our Crest Connections is reaching the youth. So if they are trained in de-escalation and mediation early, and as they're growing, it's going to change the culture of folks.
And so I guess my last kind of thought is, I don't know. I mean, just looking at the state of this country right now and, what's been going on with police and protesting, mostly in California, but also popping up across the country at this point. It's feeling similar to 2020, so I'm wondering if there will be a little bit of a pendulum swing again in public perspective of policing if we continue to see people brutalized in the streets as we've been seeing. I'm just putting that out there as like that was kind of when the moment was ripe,
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, and I think the moment might be ripe again for people to get angry. So
As far as like the anger, I think a lot of times that people, until you need someone, don't think about it. And I think what's happening now, especially with alternative response, is that people who would have normally called the police are realizing that they don't need a police officer. Having a neighbor with a mental health issue crisis who's screaming in the street, and this is a more upscale neighborhood, and I say this only because, and then having that person, having someone in the neighborhood call up and say, well, we don't want to call the police on them, they're not a bad person, this is my neighbor. And again, it's not until someone needs someone that they realize that there's an alternative.
right. No, I mean, I was reading an article today that was, it just reiterated statistics I already know, but, people with mental health illness and going through a crisis are 16 times more likely to be killed by police than a regular, a person who's not experiencing mental health. I have a small person outside my door, so I'm going to run, but I think that's something that we need to remember about the stats is that we need Crest.
Thank you.
So
We
I'm-
have
I'm-
Everald.
Hi, I'm off camera because my internet's been crazy all day. So Camille, you seem to have a strong aversion to not sectioning someone. I'm just trying to understand why, because I think part of the reason why APD has a clinician is for exactly that reason. And I understand that it gets into the weeds of, um, this whole clinician stuff, but I'm just trying to understand if Crest is consent based. And if somebody says, I'd rather not deal with the police, can you help me get sectioned? What is the concern around not doing that?
Well, first of all, to be sectioned, you have to be an independent licensed clinician, and also it's also part of the job description, and to be able to do it. So only certain people are able to section people. And there's a big misnomer that sectioning means that they're going to be sent to the hospital and that's it. The thing about police sectioning, so police can section someone, and all that a section is that gets them to the hospital. That just means that they have to go. It doesn't mean that they have to stay. It doesn't mean that they're going to get treatment. It just gets them off the street for whatever amount of time. So there are times, and I only know this from my previous job, having people that were having difficulty and going out and having the crisis team come out and sectioning this person, and then only to have this person back on the street in an hour and a half. Because there's checks and balances all the way around, so that a person who goes to the hospital under a section is then evaluated by a doctor, and then has to be admitted, has to be evaluated, and they have to keep maintaining that level of illness to stay. So a lot of times that people come in, they're very agitated, etc. If the next thing that a doctor comes in, a psychiatrist, and comes in and they are not presenting the same way, they're sent home. So, and it
So-
doesn't necessarily mean that they're sent home with any services either.
Okay, so maybe I'm thinking about it differently in the world where I see people come to court and they say, hey, this person has a substance abuse or alcohol issue, they need to be sectioned, and the court initiates a process. But I think what you're talking about is the immediacy of the police being able to send someone to the hospital.
Yes. When you're talking about somebody going to drug and alcohol, that's a Section 35, and that is a
Yeah.
much different process.
Yeah. My other question, hearing the contrast between APD and CRES, and I know that you say that, you're not getting dispatch calls because people are calling CRES directly. Has there ever been a comparison with APD's call logs and yours to see has their calls gone up? Has their calls gone down? Have the calls changed over time as to what they're getting? Has that analysis ever been done?
No, not that I know of.
Are there opportunities to do so? Because I mean, if the conception, well, if the if the belief is that CRES should be under APD, it might warrant showing that kind of data to say no, and here's why it shouldn't be. I mean, APD used to get these many calls over time for these many reasons, and now that they're not, and that is because of the existence of CRES. And I know that time is not our friend here with this happening next week. So the other question now becomes, and I'm thinking, plan ahead. So I'm thinking my next question rather is, what is the plan and what happens to CRES when they cut these two staffing positions? How does CRES move forward?
We still continue to do the work. Just there will be less of us to do the work. So, and I mean, it's going to hurt us. I'm not going to say it's not. And we're still going to be looking for other grants. And it's difficult. It really is difficult. Because now there's just myself and my administrative assistant. And so I'm one person and I can only do so much, and my admin is taken over. She has done some incredible work with organizing and getting things done that weren't able to be done because everybody else was siloed. Well, not siloed. Everybody else was so spread thin in doing so many other things. And as far as getting, what is it that CRES is doing, like the call volume, et cetera, that is something that is being done through the researchers. So part of the grant. So there will be a report on, what work we've done, the call volume, et cetera, that will come from this.
So I know that Deb and Allegra have tried many times to get Paul to be here with no success, or to get us in front of town council. So I do have to ask, is there a staff liaison, how and when? And I appreciate that it may not happen in this fiscal year. And again, I know we have a retreat coming up on Saturday, but just thinking ahead, we need last minute is not going to work for us this time around. But what can we do to actually, and hearing Deb's view of the finance committee's essentially, evisceration of you versus APD, how can we as a committee get in front of town council to make an argument for Crest? And again, even if it's outside of this fiscal year, at some point they need to hear different voices as to what Crest is, what Crest does, the importance of Crest. And I think we should, I think that conversation needs to happen first, where money is not part of the agenda. And I think it'll also be very good to have that APD data versus Crest data again before we go there. So I'm just trying to see how can we get more than sufficient time to go in front of the town council, maybe give a presentation to town council on behalf of Crest.
Well, I can tell you that, you know, I have, you know, set up, so remember at the beginning of the year, I had a year-end report that was created. So something like that. The other thing that I believe that can happen is, I know you're having your retreat this weekend, is for us to do another retreat with myself and DEI and any other town folks that want to come, and to be able to sit there and talk about what we can do as a group in person. Because I think Zoom, while it's great, I don't think it lends itself to natural conversations.
So I hear that, but I don't want to have something with folks who want to come. I want to be put on the town council's agenda with a line item that says Crest presentation, and it's dedicated to this committee presenting to Crest officially on the record. That's what I'm looking for. How can we make that happen?
I honestly do not know how to do. I can look into it, but as someone who's been here a year, and you know, I live in Holyoke, so I don't know how things are done for a town.
Yeah, I think the next step is for us to like meet with, like, set up a time to meet with Lynn, and let her know that, because, you know, Allegra and I have contacted Lynn and other town council. I've reached out to our town council liaison and everything else. Like we wanna, you know, we wanna meet with the town council, and it's just like, it's just really embarrassing for them that we are a committee of the town council and they are just disregarded, because Lynn basically got back, oh, well, we're too busy, you know, and I get report out from, you know, like basically like the town manager in terms of what you all discuss. And I'm just like, that's not the same thing, Lynn. You know, you need to get it from us. We're the ones that are in touch with the community. So you need to kind of hear it from us as opposed to hearing it from second and third hand people. So I think we need to just get more personal in terms of set up a meeting with Lynn and possibly other town councilors to say, we want to get on your agenda. Any other questions, Everett, before we go to Erica?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like our liaison, or Martha, might have a response regarding how to get onto town council. But I wanted to just emphasize that Section 12 and Section 35 are very specific for individuals who are at risk for harming him or herself, or they self or others. And so it is about taking away their civil rights and making self-determination. So I really want to affirm what Camille is saying, which is that, you know, Camille, you're definitely not naive. If you think the police needs to be called, you'll call them. But
Right.
It is a pretty serious intervention, and it can be very traumatic for an individual. With Section 35, they're actually handcuffed and taken away. Section 12, you know, if need be, they will do that. But you know, the alternative response is exactly why Crest is available, to make sure that if that's not necessary, then you know, de-escalate, focus, see what's going on, to help an individual. But if an individual looks like they're going to be at harm to self or others, then that's, you know, Section 12, Section 35. The other thing, the LEAP, thank you, Deborah, for mentioning LEAP, because I had never read the report and I didn't know about the report. That has excellent analysis in terms of calls by UMPD that an alternative response system or complement to APD could take on. So that actually exists, that data is there. And actually the final report from the town actually even refers to it. And it talks not only about appropriateness, reduction of trauma, but it also talks about efficiency. Let the police do the work that they're trained for. Alternative response team is complementary for calls that are not appropriate for the police, and that really also engages and supports community. So, I mean, I think the LEAP report it really is an amazing report, and I'm glad, Deborah, you mentioned it. And so I think, to emphasize that, and again, everything that everyone said, which is that if the dispatch calls aren't coming and they're freezing to positions, and we're now looking at protocols for dispatch, it is almost like, okay, those are going to come. There are not enough people to respond. Okay, CREST doesn't work. So I agree with that comment. I put that all in my comments to the Finance Committee, and my representative is the chair of the Finance Committee. The response was, well, we can't add a budget. We can't add to the budget. And I said, thank you for the clarification. I wasn't asking to add to the budget. I was asking you to do what the community safety work group said, which is to reallocate resources. When you're thinking of 2 to 8 and 1 frozen to 45, the ratio is ridiculous, and that's not equity, and that's not equitable. So I will be at the Monday meeting, and I will be making sure that my opinion is heard, both as an individual as well as from this committee. That's my last comment, which is that if you look at the charge of this committee, it was a resolution by the town council, December 2020. Our role was to help advise the town council and also help advise the town manager around the budgets. And that is what we're trying to do. And we're not being allowed an opportunity to do it, with Deborah and Allegra asking to be on the agenda, asking to be heard. We're just being ignored.
Exactly. Thank you, Erica, for those points. Very
Thank you.
received. Allegra?
So I don't know if this is like a strategy idea for here or for to talk about at the retreat, but if we can show up on Monday, I think actually like reading that resolution back to them like in full would be really powerful if one of us could do that. I can volunteer to do that, but I also think making sure that as many of us can comment to why the budget needs to remain intact for 8 positions at the very least. Because again, it is part of our charge, and I think it's part of their goals that they set for the town manager and that they set for themselves, and they've put it together in a resolution. So I think that reminding them of that resolution is an important thing to do.
And I think it's an important point, Allegra, that you're bringing up, not only about the Monday meeting, but also around what Avril has said about us setting up this meeting with the town council, since we're being actively ignored by the town council. When, as Eric, as you pointed out, our charge is to advise the town council and advise the town manager, and both of these entities are not listening to us, because the town manager has not even deigned to attend any of our meetings, and then the town council are just refusing to put us on the agenda, like actively refusing to put us on the agenda, when Allegra and I have contacted them numerous times to say we want to be put on the agenda. So I think that these are 2 things that we need to find some time during our retreat to really come up with some strategies around those, because we need to showcase that, our voices will not be silenced, because that's what's actively happening right now. Is a committee of the town that deals with equity and social justice is being actively silenced by the town council, who are people that are voted in by the community, by residents, and are being silenced by them, and basically saying you don't matter and you don't count. The equity and social justice does not matter in this community, and they're sending the message really loud and clear. And I hope that the media picks this up and that they put it out there to showcase what is actively happening in this town, which is happening, which is a mirror image of what's happening nationally, right? Nationally is also the message of social justice doesn't matter, equity doesn't matter, diversity, equity, inclusion doesn't matter. Those who are marginalized, vulnerable, who need the most do not matter. And that's what the town is doing. So when we keep on saying that it's happening nationally, we need to look at in our own town. It's happening in our own town, right? That we are being actively ignored and actively told, you don't matter. So I'll move it to Lisette.
Hi, I just have a couple questions and I'll probably go into a rant. When you reach out to the town council, are you being ignored, like no response, or are you given a reason as to why they can't fit you into the agenda?
The first time we contacted them, that's what Lynn said. Oh, and we're too busy. The agenda's already packed. And so this was all in one response, right? And then she said that she hears what we say through reports that I guess the town manager shares. And I can look up the email. I can send it to you all afterwards, that the town manager shares. And then I responded to her and I said, no, we need to be on the agenda because you are getting information from second and third people. You need to get it from us, who are the people that are in tune with the community. And so we want to bring what's important in terms of social justice and equity directly to you. Then it was crickets, did not get a response from her. Then we contacted her again and said, we want to get on the agenda, no response. And then I've made my own kind of like just communications to them to be like, you know, this is what's happening with CRES. We need to talk to you all. No response. So after that, it's just been no response. They haven't responded to any other communication.
Do other committees make it to the agenda that you know of?
Well, I've made it, you know, CSWG before. We had made it to the agenda when we had asked. You know, it wasn't like we were put on right away, but we weren't ignored and shut down. So I can only speak from past because I was part of the working group myself and we were put on the agenda. There was issues with it though. When we were put on the agenda, I remember we were put, like we weren't included as part of the meeting. They put us on the sidelines. So we had a whole hullabaloo around that, right? We weren't brought into the meeting and weren't made part of the meeting. So different things, but we weren't actively ignored. And this is what's happening with CSSJC right now. We are being actively ignored.
Okay. The meeting that you're mentioning in regards to tomorrow, is that a town council meeting?
Well, that's actually on Monday. So
sorry, on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a town council meeting. And that's, from what I've been told, that is when the town councilors are going to do a vote in regards to the recommendations that the town manager made around the budget. So right now, as you know, with CRES is freezing these two positions. And so the town councils are going to be doing the vote in terms of that. Of course, they're going to be voting on other things too, whatever the town manager recommended. But of course, my focus is on the fact that they'll be freezing two positions for CRES, and the vote is going to happen on Monday.
Right. And I'm sure I can find out any information to my questions online, but is this in person? Is it on Zoom? And what are the times if you know?
Yeah, you can do person or Zoom, and the time is 6:30. That's when it starts. If anyone like that has the information ready, if y'all can send it to our group, like the link and the time and the place. Again, it's going to be a town hall, right?
It's on the town website
Okay.
Okay.
with the
Thank
Zoom
you.
link.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, probably my really unnecessary rant.
No,
But
rant away.
thank you. But I agree 100% with what it is that you said. It is very frustrating. I think I'm going about 2 years in the month of July or August that I joined the committee. And ever since, CRES has been the main topic of conversation. And dispatch, there's been so many suggestions. There's been so many, like back and forth communication with the leadership team. In regards to dispatching calls. And I don't know why, maybe I was mistaken. I was under the impression that dispatch was sending at least 1 or 2 phone calls. Maybe it was up to the dispatcher's discretion, which calls would be going out to the CRES. But then also, I know that Camille said there is a list of the phone calls that they are able to respond to. But the thing is that for people like me, speaking for myself, I live in a very college populated area. There's a lot of Hispanics, there's a lot of Blacks in the area that I live in. And for example, noise complaints, right? I don't have a problem. It doesn't bother me. But let's say I were to have an issue with my neighbor's music being too loud. My understanding is that I can't turn to Crest to have a respondent come to my neighbor who's a really cool guy, lady, whatever. They won't come because it's a noise complaint and noise complaints are for the PD to assist. The PD showing up to my neighbor's house is not going to do any good. If Crest were to show up, it'd be no problem. But I think that that's, something that it's very frustrating. And we keep getting backlash from the PD. And I understand for safety reasons and whatnot. But at some point, however many years ago, there was guidelines that were set in place. There's always a risk factor to everything. But I think that they're not even giving the responders a chance to be able to assist certain calls because of the risk factor. And then another thing, which I think it's great that Crest provides a lot of social services to the community, but there's a lot of Hispanics, older individuals that sure they may want a ride to, go get medical care or go do this, go do that. Like, because my understanding is that Crest is used as a social service. Sorry, my dog. That people reach out to Crest as a forms of transportation. I'm so sorry. As a forms of transportation. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It's only in exigent circumstances. So the senior center at one time did not have a driver for a while. He is now back and he is doing 3 days a week. So during that time, there were some folks that were not able to be serviced. So we were picking up a few of them. But it wasn't, if you look at our details on the log, it was only a couple times a month that this was happening. This wasn't a main part of what we were doing. So this was just in between. If somebody was really stuck, they had an early appointment or something that they couldn't get on the bus, an elder especially, then that's when we were doing it. And if they had some kind of disability where they had a wheelchair or something like that, we couldn't help them. So this is somebody that's ambulatory and can basically get in the car themselves, but cannot walk, say, far enough to the bus stop, or the bus stop was not accessible for them.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. But so I'll take that one back. But then also it does come across as sabotage because you said you're going to have the same amount of work with less people. That just means that the current Crest responders that you have are going to be spread out even thinner. And that's sometimes, unfortunately, how you lose people. It's not like they're getting an increase in pay. They're getting probably more responsibilities or more, I don't know, mental exhaustion. And I don't think it's right. And I'm sorry that that's what's happening to Crest. Also, when I first learned about Crest, it was through a judge in Springfield. And if it wasn't for this group and for that judge, I never would have heard about Crest because I don't think it's something that is promoted as much as it should. And it doesn't get the recognition that it should. But when I first heard about what Crest does, to me, I was like, wow, this is amazing. But then now 2 years into this committee, and unfortunately, Crest is still not where at that level that it was explained to me. It's terrible. It's awful. It's frustrating, but that's my
It
rant.
is, yeah, it is frustrating. But also the other thing that is to be understood is that while you all have been doing this longer, there is a period of growth And that if you look at the timeline and you look at the growth, it's steadily going up. Nothing is, linear. We have peaks and valleys. And if you look at the data for other departments, if you look at Cahoots or Durham, we are right on track, and actually we're ahead of where, it was imagined. The big difference again is the dispatch portion of it. So while we are not on dispatch, we are doing a really good job at a workaround. And I mean, that is necessity.
So Camille, I think that it's really good that you're bringing this up, right? All the successes that Crest is doing, which is great, and I think you want to continue to always say that.
Mhm.
But I want to point out, right, that you are having to do, as they say, right, make $1 out of 15 cents, right? So you all have been doing tremendous amount of work, given the fact that you all having been given. It's almost kind of like, all right, you tell a doctor to go perform surgery, and then you don't give him the tools to perform the surgery. You see what I'm saying? So the doctor's not going to, because he wants, or she or they want to save the life of the patient. And so they're still going to get there and do the best they can, right? And maybe possibly they save the patient, but it's through an operation that took 20 hours, when if they had the tools, it would have taken 5 hours. You see what I'm saying? So
Oh, definitely.
And I want to say, you all are doing a tremendous amount of work. Yet, and still, we do have to point out the flip of the coin, right? The flip of the coin is that you all aren't being given the tools. You all aren't being utilized fully. You all are being resisted. You all are being put challenged and barriers. And Lisette made so many great points. Thank you, Lisette, for speaking and sharing. Because the point of the matter is that by them freezing 2 positions, it's going to overburden you and the rest of the staff. We already had seen that staff have left the turnover rate before because of being, put upon, right? And it happens to any department. Never mind a department that's already spread thin, and now is going to even be spread thinner. You see what I'm saying? So what we're doing, and this is our job, Camille, is to advocate for you all. I mean, it doesn't take away from all the greatness that Crest has been able to do, but you all shouldn't have to always make $1 out of 15 cents. We are saying that it's not fair to you to have 15 cents and try to make $1 out of it. It's not fair. It's setting you all up, even though you all are doing great and doing the best you can, but you could be doing 10 million times better, and you could be serving the community a lot more, and the community could be more kind of like, just excited about the fact that, if they do end up calling, because a lot of people do know 911, right? They might not know Crest number off the top of their head, but that if they call 911 and they tell 911, hey, I'm having a problem with my neighbor, right, that doesn't involve any violence, dispatch is going to send Crest. You see what I'm saying? Right away and stuff like that. That's what the community wants. That's what the community has been asking for. And that's what the town has been denying the community. That's what we want to point out, right? So we're not taking away from Crest. We're saying that, yes, and look at what is happening. And now you all are being penalized further, because unfortunately, that is what is out there in the community. Oh, well, Crest isn't doing this and Crest isn't doing that. And we want to set the record straight. Crest isn't doing other things, especially in terms of responding to alternative to police calls, because those calls are not being dispatched, and you all are not being utilized for those calls. Because as Lisette pointed out, in which I've said ad nauseum, you all should be responding to noise complaints, because that, for the most part, does not involve violence. I've had interaction, I've already said this, with the police in regards to noise complaints. Me, a professional, right? A person who, is in the community doing things. But when the police show up and they see the color of my skin, and they see the people that are in the room that all look like me or are darker skinned or so on and so forth, they treat us a certain way, which is negatively. And their first thing is, either you shut this down or I am arresting you. And that's where those things go, right? As opposed to if Crest is called to those noise complaints, it would be a discussion, a conversation, which is what we were trying to have with the police. And they shut us down because of the color of our skin, right? Because of who we look like, even though I am, an older professional person, it does not matter. Skin speaks first. Skin speaks first, okay? And so that's why we are saying that Crest needs to be called to those calls, right? And we know the reason why Crest is not being called to those calls and everything else, because what we had recommended is that, and a lot of people keep on saying, "Oh, Deborah, well, you guys shouldn't say this, that Crest is alternative police because that's why people keep on having resistance." But that's what we recommended Crest to be, an alternative to police. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to say that Crest is solely a social service agency and so on and so forth. No, Crest is supposed to be responding to the calls that are all nonviolent calls. And yes, it will be an alternative to policing. And yes, it will it mean that there will be less need for the police. And yes, that will mean that money from the police will be allocated to Crest. Yes, that is the goal. That is the goal. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to change what CSWG had recommended. So that's the bottom line. So it's an and both, Camille. You all are doing great with what you all have been given thus far, but you all have a right, because of what was recommended in CSWG, which is what the community wants, and it's a disservice to the community that you all are not being called for all calls that are not nonviolent. That's it is what is happening, and we got to be. I mean, I'm going to be very clear in regards to it and voice. But any other comments, any other questions for Camille? I know that, we're already at 8:20 and usually we're ending around 8:30. So.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your support. Thank you all for your support.
Of course, because you all are key. Your department is key to the safety, equity of our town, for all our residents to feel included and heard and feel that their needs are being met. You all are a critical component of our town, and we're going to make sure that you all get the support that you need. So we are at 8:20. So I know we have a few other agenda items on the list, but I think some of them we could probably kind of go quickly just because we haven't had representatives. But first, Resident Oversight Board. Allegra, do you have anything else to add in regards to the Resident Oversight Board?
Nothing to add. I had reached out to Rabbi Deb with those questions. I had not received anything back from her about what would happen if the town's attorney doesn't like what we've submitted. And the other question was whether or not it had been posted on the website, and she said that that was an easy fix that she could get to. And I admittedly have not checked whether or not it's there, but I don't have any time frame as to when that's supposed to go in front of the town council, or if it's come back from the town attorney, or if it's been sent to the town attorney. So no, I don't really have anything concrete to update.
Yeah, because I know obviously this month we've really been focusing on Crest and, of course, making sure or hoping that the positions don't get frozen. But I think that that's something for us to kind of put on for the next meeting to just see what's the time frame, where things are at with the Resident Oversight Board, and when, when the kind of the draft, the drafts are going to be posed to the town council, because obviously, as I had said before, it would have been more meaningful if they would share these drafts with the community so that the community had an opportunity to opine on it. But if that doesn't happen, then it needs to happen before during the town council meeting, during public comment or what have you, or they need to give an opportunity for the community to share the feedback, because it would be unfair for the community if that doesn't happen. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the Resident Oversight Board? If not, we'll move to the Youth Empowerment Center. And with that, there's really nothing to report to, because like I said, I've communicated with the town manager various times saying that we need, and I take every opportunity whenever he communicates with me, even about other things, then I'll kind of respond to him and I'll be like, oh, do you have a representative to come in for the Youth Empowerment Center? And then he proceeds to ignore my email. Because we need someone who, from rec or, the finance, the department or what have you. I don't even know who has the, who's the point of contact for the Youth Empowerment Center. But again, we have $450,000 right now that is in kind of free cash, which I feel is just going to disappear. And the Youth Empowerment Center is not going to be established. So I think that's something else that we can add to kind of our strategy and discussion around, at our retreat, because of course the Youth Empowerment Center was something else that we wanted to talk to the town council about, but with them actively ignoring us, we have to come up with a strategy in terms of how best to address that. Any other comments or questions on the Youth Empowerment Center? I guess the next thing is to talk about the retreat planning. So I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
Thank you. Everyone should have gotten a copy of the agenda for the day. So let me just really quickly go over it. As was mentioned, it's Saturday at the Bank Center. If we could get there at 9 a.m., pretty much from 9 to 9:10, we're going to settle in and have refreshments. 9:10, we're going to do the welcome and have an overview of the purpose. And just to reiterate the purpose, what we're hoping is that when we leave there, that we'll have a shared understanding of what we expect from the CSSJ, meaning us, and from each other, that we define actionable goals, and that we have action steps for each actionable goal with timeline and a lead person or maybe a subcommittee. So that's sort of like in a nutshell. We're hoping that everyone, either who has already read the CSSJ charge, just review it again. It's on the website, but there's also a link from the website. And then also the 7th generation report. If you have already read it, just review it one more time. I think it's really important because part of what we're going to look at is, and make a determination, was the community safety working group's recommendation a mandate to us, meaning that this is what we need to do. And if it's a mandate, we need to think about also how to prioritize that with regards to this year, next year, et cetera. So there's a lot to discuss. I think, we probably have more to discuss than we'll have time for, but we can also discuss how we want to do it. And I think, Everald and others have mentioned that maybe set aside time at these meetings, or maybe have a meeting in between to focus on, our goals and our timelines and our actionable steps with that. So there's a lot where we're going to commit to ending at 1 p.m. And that'll be important. So whatever we achieve will be a great achievement, but we will commit to that. Philip is going to have available all the materials that I've asked for, newsprint, tape, pens, Post-its, whatever it is that I gave him a list of, he'd agreed to. And Camille is going to make sure that we have refreshments. I will actually take care of the tea and coffee, meaning I'll have hot water and lots of different variety of teas. But everything else Camille has committed to. Go ahead, Camille.
I just wanted to let you know, when you said newsprint, do you mean like the big boards that you stick to the wall? Okay,
Yeah.
Because I've already put that stuff aside.
Thank you.
And also, there is a tea kettle that is available for you.
Okay, great. I will be bringing a box of hot water as well. So you will keep the tea kettle going and people can continue. We will have a break. There is a planned break at 10:45, just so, people can stretch, et cetera. But, of course, we're a small group. If people need to stand or, use the facilities, of course. And we are having it at the Bank Center because as a government committee or municipal committee, it is open to the public. So there is one thing, which is, as you know, Pat Rooney had agreed to facilitate, but Pat's going to be in Montana. She's probably there right now. And so I was given someone else, and I'm going to totally take ownership of this. There was a conversation with the individual with my misunderstanding of an honorarium, and it looks like we might not be able to provide an honorarium for the individual. So I will contact that individual and see if they will still be willing to do it. The person's absolutely phenomenal. We had a wonderful conversation, is really, really just so just in awe of all the work that we're doing in this committee. But I think, you know, if we're part of a committee that focuses on equity and justice, honorarium is important for, you know, someone who's taking a Saturday and also has a family. But since I screwed up, I'm going to have that conversation to see if the person's willing to do it or not. So I'm not going to mention the person's name just because it wouldn't be fair. But it's too late to get it approved. So that is part of the issue.
Yeah, because I mean, I think, Erica, what you're talking about is that, you know, like with any consultants, especially consultants of color, we want to honor them. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to take them for granted and things like that. So it's just like, if we're going to use them, you know, for their skills and their expertise, it's only fair that we pay them an honorarium. But obviously, if we can, or if there's a reason why, you know, if there's a protocol or what have you, and we didn't have enough time to follow protocol, then, you know, I don't think it's anyone's fault. It's just about talking to the person and letting them know, you know,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and then seeing if she'd still be willing to, you know, but if she isn't, we totally understand it too, because we want to honor
Absolutely.
their time, you know.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
for color who, again, we always take it, you know, I'll say, you know, my opinion is that, you know, institutions take advantage of people of color, you know, and expect them to do things for free. And that's not okay. You know, we have to honor them.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So either way, we're either going to be all working together to do this, or we will have someone facilitate, someone wonderful. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on Saturday in person. I think it'll be very exciting to be in the same room as all of you. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any comments, go ahead, ask me any questions. I don't know if you would like to have a paper copy, because we'll be going to Staples to download the reports that I've read a couple of times, but I want to literally highlight them. You know? Okay, thank you. I'll see you on Saturday.
All right. So any other questions or comments for Erica?
Just thank you for all your work that you've done in pulling this together. I know it's been a heavy lift, so thank you.
Yes, ditto. Thank you so much. Going to be exciting to have all of us there. And, you know, and of course, yeah, it would be great to have a facilitator. But let's see if we're not able to get a facilitator. I think it'll still be a great opportunity for us to get together, you know, we're a small group, and really kind of have these types of conversations, which we know we don't have, because of course we have to talk about all the other pressing issues that community wants us to talk about, you know, so we never talk about our inner workings and how we can be most effective. So I think it'll be a really good opportunity. And I think 9 to 1 is perfect, because, you know, sometimes when you do 9 to 5 or whatever, it's just so exhausting and people are just exhausted. So 9 to 1, I think it's a perfect amount of time. Thank you, Erica. So, and I think the last agenda item was the town council, but I think we already kind of talked about it, and we'll fold that kind of into, you know, the retreat, because of course, talking to town council really is talking about our goals, right? And some of the things that we need to address within our charge as the subsequent group that was charged after the community safety working group, because really we are the group that because we wanted the community safety working group to continue, but that we, you know, the CSWG was disbanded. And so CSSJC is the kind of sequel group to really kind of do this work, right? And so, you know, we can kind of strategize about the town council meeting, you know, during our retreat. Any other questions or comments in regards to that? Now, I guess, second public comment period. And Allegra or Camille, because I'm on my phone, so I can't kind of.
Hi, it's Martha Hanner from District 5. And so I was listening to the meeting, and I just wanted to say that I also listened to the Finance Committee meeting when they reviewed the 3 safety departments. And Deborah, I agree with everything you said. I was really stunned by that whole conversation. It seems that the people listening just do not understand the difference between an armed policeman going to a scene and an armed crest person going to the scene. It's like you're talking on 2 different levels that are never going to intersect. And so that's very, very troubling. I also just wanted to say for making points for Monday night, it isn't that Cress has lost 2 positions, it's that they've lost 3 positions because CAT was funded on a grant, and the grant was designed to help launch Cress. And the grant was meant to be something that the municipality would take over and support once the grant was ended. And that was not done. And so that's even the implementation manager is more important than a single responder in the sense, think of all the things that Kat was doing. And, as Camille says, she can't juggle everything by herself. So I think that's an important point to make, that it's 3 people that were taken away, which really decimates Cress and everything else you said about, how do you expect, then you're going to be judged for how you function when you got your, so I will say that there are certainly, many of us out here who are really trying to do our best continually to support Cress. And I think that we are really going to need some kind of broad community dialogues and publicity, after this budget is over and so on, to just really help get a broader understanding of Cress in our community. So, yeah, keep on going. So, good luck, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Martha. We appreciate you. Hello, can you hear us? Norma?
I think Norma is muted. Let's see.
Hi, Norma, you have your hand up? You're muted? Maybe some technical difficulties.
No, I'm having technical difficulties. I'm going to go to the next talker and then maybe Norma can figure out how to unmute.
Hi again, it's Pat Ananibako. So as I was listening to the entire meeting today, first of all, thank you for those who made it to the Finance Committee and sharing this. I will say that, I'm not surprised to hear what went down. I think, your committee is very, very kind not to name what it is. And I'm just going to say it. We have a racist local government, starting from town manager to most of the town councillors. So none of this should be a surprise. I was one of the CSWG, and we experienced that too, but we kept pushing. I think the current government we have anything that has to do with marginalized community, some marginalized community, not all, is never a priority for them. The whole talk about DEI, CRES, Human Rights Commission, nope, that's not a priority. But anything that impacts them, white people, middle class white people, then it becomes a priority. So I do see the benefit of this group, but the fact that town manager will not respond to a committee member emails back and forth, or Lynn, the council president, who is also the so-called District 2 where I live, will not respond or will not even make any attempt to meet with co-chairs of CSSJC. All this boils down to racist action, punishing people when they speak up. If you take a look at some of the town committees, when you agree with them, they give you what you want. But that's not what this group is all about. If some of you are acting the way they want you to act, then maybe you might see some changes. But it's not changes that will, positively impact the people who need the services the most. Just to hear we're going to have another, listening program or another study or survey, how many times? This is a way to delay, dismantle CRES, and they will come up with one thing or the other. There's no money for youth program. There's no money. They know what they're doing. They just don't want it, but they're hiding under the cover of Amherst being a liberal town. I don't see any difference between Trump and our town manager, nor some of our town councilors, period. It's all about racism. They want to frustrate you guys. They don't want to work with you guys because they hold the power. That's what it is. And I want to address, the white ally in this CSSJC, Allegra, and the other lady. Thank you, for your bravery. We need more people like you to keep speaking up the truth, because this will, has been happening for years and it will continue. And it takes people who have courage to keep standing up, because history will judge. History will judge. On Monday, I've already prepared my brain, myself, for the worst, because decision has already been made behind the scene. What you heard at the finance committee is something they've been discussing behind the scene. So it shouldn't shock anybody. I've lived in this town for 40 plus years, so I know how this town rolls. When you agree with them, you get everything. BBAA is putting up one of the biggest Juneteenth. It only took one government official to reach out to us. And who is that person? Philip Avila. That's it. And you know why? Because some of the BBA members pushed for upper funds that we never got. And this is a way to silence my group. But you know what? We're getting funding through other people too. So we're thriving. We're doing very well, with or without upper funds. Some people are reaching out to us. They're listening to us. They know what is going in this town, and they're helping behind the scene, one person at a time, quietly. I just want to put that out. Keep up the good work. Some people will continue to fight, even when it feels frustrating and exhausting. Take care of yourselves, because I do that sometimes. I have to remove myself for some time and then come back. Please do that and take care of yourself. Don't feel discouraged. God bless you all. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Ms. Pat.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Sorry, I let too many people in at once, but Audrey is the one with their hand raised, so.
Hi, I also wanted to say thank you so much. This is the first time I'm attending one of these meetings, and it just really is eye-opening to see what the local government has been doing to silence very important voices. But besides that, I am a little bit out of the loop. Um, are you able to share the names of those who were frozen and when that occurred and maybe the reason they specifically were frozen?
My understanding is that the positions that were frozen were vacant at the time of freezing. And I think that that's what they tried to do across the board, because there were some other positions in like DPW that were also frozen. But again, it's not necessarily representative of who has larger numbers of employees versus who's getting the most positions frozen when there are other open positions in other large departments. Erica, do you have something better to say than what I just said?
No, just something that's sort of disconcerting, and maybe I misread it, but in the budget that was presented, including the budget cuts, I swear I had read that, yes, there were going to be 6.5 positions, 2 of CRES, 1 of the fire department, 1 of the police, 1 of DPW, and 1 of the town, including a half. But the fire department, which I absolutely agree, and APD can continue recruiting, where that was not included with regard to CRES. And I think, again, that's an equity issue. But I would, before you print that, Audrey, since you're, going to be doing correspondence, you really should look that up because that's what I read. I just don't want to misquote. But I did read that. I thought I read that in the budget, which I thought was I mentioned that to the Finance Committee. Nobody retracted and said, no, that's not correct. So I think that is extremely inequitable.
Okay, thank you. Were those positions essentially eliminated then? So you were not able to recruit additional members because of the freezing?
So I think they used the word freeze strategically so that it is not permanently removed yet, but knowing that this budget is likely indicative of budgets to come, it's probable that they would revisit freezing as opposed to freezing again might be more likely than reinstating positions is my understanding of basically what they've said.
Yeah, and my fear is that once they freeze these positions will never come back.
Mhm.
So it hasn't been frozen yet. They're going to be voting definitively on Monday, and of course that's why we're saying for everyone to go to the meeting. But as Ms. Pat stated, has I wouldn't be surprised if their decision has already been made. But we still have to put up a fight. Our voices still need to be heard because if we don't say that this is important to us, then it's just going to be definitely just put under the carpet. So that's why it's important for everyone to show up and everyone to make a statement and to showcase the importance of CRES and not freezing these positions, as well as pointing out, as the other caller stated, that it's actually a third position that's not going to be refunded through the grant. Well, the ending of a grant.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see Martha has her hand up again. I know Norma had exited and re-entered. I'm not sure if Norma would like to try and come back into the room or if I should go to Martha. Norma, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will go to Martha.
This is Martha Hanner, District 5. I just wanted to say to Audrey and to the rest of you that I saw Kathy Shane today and asked her, and she said that the report from the Finance Committee and their recommendations has been sent to the town council, which means that it should be available for all of us to get access to on the town website, presumably under the materials going to town council. And so it might be instructive to read it before Monday. And Audrey, that would help clarify for you what was transpired. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Great
Thank you.
point.
I'm not seeing any other hands.
Okay, so I think at this point is just looking at our next meeting day. Of course, we're going to be meeting for the retreat on Saturday, 9 to 1. But our next meeting day is when? It's July.
July 9th is the second Wednesday.
Okay.
Does that conflict with anybody's plans, or is
Yeah,
everyone?
I won't be around, but as we
Okay.
saw, I mean, it's a big problem to change the meeting. So you all move forward because I know it's vacation times and things like that. So I'll be away. I'll be on vacation. So you all keep proceeding forward. And then I will catch up with you all, I think, in August if I'm not on vacation, because I know I'm taking another week in August. So, but
I will be gone in August for the second and third.
okay. And I'll be able to do the 13th, though. I'll be there on the 13th. So it'll work out. So Allegra, you can kind of go over the, on the July one, because I won't be there. And then the 13th, I'll be there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Erica?
It may be a good idea for us at the next meeting just to see who might be away, because I don't know what quorum is, but I will be away in August for that meeting as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And I guess Paul had said that they are in the process of going through applications. I know that I know that there were like 5 new people appointed to the housing trust. So I think they are in the process of going through them. He said he would reach back out if there are new people who have expressed interest in our group, because we do have the vacancies. But I'm not betting on that being done before August 13th necessarily. So I will follow back up. I will also, just if you have anyone in your networks who are interested in joining a committee and would like to join this one, let them know that there are some vacancies, and there's the form online that they can fill out.
Well, let me ask just so for July, though, I'm not going to be there. Are the rest of you all going to be able to be there in July? Just so okay, perfect. August, we already know that Allegra and Erica are not going to be there. Lisette and Everald, are you all going to be able to be there? Because I mean, we could still have a meeting. It just we wouldn't be able to vote on things, but we could still have a meeting to kind of, ask questions and share information with the community. Everald and Lisette, are you all available on the 13th or no? Okay, Lisette is available. What about you, Everald? Oh, is Everald there? Well, I think what you could do, Allegra, is check in with Everald at the next meeting in July, because then if, as long as Everald can, I'm still okay for us to hold it, because it would be 3 of us. We wouldn't be able to vote on anything, but at least we could still share information with the community. But if Everald's not going to be available, I don't think just the 2 of us, me and Lisette, then we would just cancel.
Okay. All right, and yeah, maybe we can try and also just take a quick look at schedules on Saturday. But July 9th will be the next meeting.
Yeah.
Besides Saturday. And is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay, all right.
So call to adjourn.
Thank you.
All right. That was fun, but Allegra, you're doing it next time.
Yeah. I'll step back in.
All right. Okay, folks. We'll see you all on Saturday.
All right.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.